You unmute them. Go ahead. Mute them.
What will happen? Only 9 have registered. This is what happens usually. Lionel.
Hello, Shrikant.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Dr. Patterson, good morning.
Morning.
I have sent you a link for tomorrow's conference also.
Yes, I did. I did receive it. And I'll be sending you my PowerPoint as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome. I just want to make sure that I share
Yeah,
my acknowledgement.
hope our hospitality went nice and my way of telling things also went fine.
Yeah, no, everything went very well, especially for first conference and as well as people not knowing what to expect.
Dilip. Dilip,
Yes, sir.
good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Lionel will start.
Huh?
Lionel को
Yeah.
पूछ रहा था.
Yeah, is it time up? We've got 15 minutes more, right? Who's the first presenter? Is Ali, Dr. Ali Abu Abbas. Is he in the audience?
Yes, hi, doctor. Yes, I am available.
Okay. So, Dr. Shrikant, when you are ready, we can
I am ready.
comment.
But I am ready.
We're a little early, right? We've got another 15 minutes.
Okay. Lionel, just call me by phone once.
Call you by phone.
Yeah, just once. Yeah.
Okay.
Mobile screen is gone now. Big problem. Oh, long time. Lines are coming. Why it comes? Can be repaired. Huh? Why did you do more? By anyone. No, this is 14 or 15. I used for 4 years. 3-4 years it comes now. So,
Yes, Shrikant, I called you. You're not picking up.
yeah, just see. No. Lionel.
Good morning. Dr. Fonseca, good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to be starting very soon in the next
Okay.
next 10 minutes
Okay.
to be exactly on time.
Okay. Yeah, I was having a little difficulty connecting this morning.
Okay.
How do you have to apply for global grant? What's the procedure? Skill development we can do now. Even the education side. Lionel, shall we start? I'll get something.
Just give me 1 minute more. 1 minute more, please.
I got my test done yesterday, 2 days. Usually they say symptoms have to be there. You can't stay asymptomatic also.
Okay, you can go ahead. Dr. Shrikant, you can declare the third day session open.
Yeah, it's open now. Third day session is open. Right. Over to you, Lionel.
Okay. Welcome to the third day session, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Our first presenter is Dr. Ali Abu Abbas. And his presentation is exploring the human resource and business strategies in the Middle East to COVID-19. Some information on Dr. Ali Abu Abbas. Dr. Ali Abu Abbas is a consultant in the Middle East and also operates from Canada. And he has been doing some pioneering work in human resource management in the field of understanding consumer behavior in the pharmaceutical, healthcare, and other such fields. And it is indeed a privilege and honor to know Mr. Dr. Ali Abu Abbas, because he is closely involved in both commercial as well as philanthropic projects in the Middle East and in Canada. So on that note, I would turn it over to Dr. Ali Abu Abbas. Dr. Ali Abu Abbas, if you want to add anything to the introduction that I have provided, you can say a few words before you commence your presentation. So tell us about yourself if you would like to.
Thank you, Dr. D'Souza. I appreciate your introduction. Nothing to add, as you mentioned that I am a consultant, and we are a training center also. We operating in Middle East and Canada, and also we are working in research in different sectors in healthcare, and especially for the HR and marketing strategy. So thank you so much, and hi everyone. At the beginning, I would like to thank the organizer for this symposium, all students and the presenters. We have been listening to the presentation in the last 2 days. I really enjoyed these presentations. They provided a fruitful insight during the COVID-19 period. The very important thing is that we are sharing best practices and sorry?
You can just come here. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, please mute your microphones other than the presenter. Thanks.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the very important thing is that we are sharing best practices from different regions, such as Nigeria, USA, India, and I think today we have people from Senegal. And today also I will highlight on the new region which is the Middle East. So my topic for today will be exploring the human resource and business strategies in the Middle East to COVID-19. As you know, COVID-19 has had a destructive effect on economies worldwide, where it's disrupting supply chain and the production network and restricting the flow of goods and service, capital and movement, and sure, impacting trade and business in the Arab region. So the spread of COVID-19 and the action to contain it have had a dramatic impact on the Middle East economy. Whereas per the International Monetary Fund, the Middle East economy has shrunk by 3.3% in 2020. So in order to explore strategies have used by HR leaders in the Middle East to overcome these challenges, the necessary adaptation for complying with the healthcare mandate on safe distancing and business sustainability, we have conducted this qualitative case study and interviewing 5 managers from the MENA region, from the Middle East companies who had experience creating and implementing the strategies to support employees and maintain business performance. As you know, actually in the era of COVID-19, leaders faced massive competing and challenges as they continue to navigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. These significant challenges are not limited to employees and organizations around the globe to maintain business sustainability and profitability, but also how to create new norms on maintaining safe distancing between employees. And many organizations are already taking no-regret actions to emerge from the pandemic stronger. And some leaders are facing this crisis with a spirit of reinventions and accelerating digital transformations, establishing variable cost structure, and implementing agile operation. So in order to explore that, we have conducted this qualitative multiple case study to explore strategies of organizations to encourage safe distancing during the pandemic and uncover strategies and approaches of business leaders to ensure business sustainability.
Dr. Ali, 1 second.
Okay.
Can we ask people to kindly mute their microphones? We're hearing a lot of background speaking. Please mute your microphones and then everything should be. So can you, Dr. Ali, can you go back 1 minute into where you were talking so that
sure.
we may have lost something. Okay, well, thank you.
So in order to explore that, we have conducted this qualitative multiple case study to explore strategies of organizations leaders to encourage employees safe distancing during the pandemic and discover the strategies and approaches of business leaders to ensure business sustainability. And our target population, it was like 5 business leaders from Middle East organization or companies who have experience creating and implementing successful strategies to shift their business from offline to online with consideration of the business sustainability and the profitability, and maintain safe distancing. Such as any research, actually, we faced many constraints. However, in studies related to COVID-19, especially in the Middle East, we have faced many constraints, actually, where this crisis was new and companies were not experienced such situation before. One of the main constraint or limitation was that the HR department in the Middle East companies are not involved in strategic planning and implementation, and it's not part of their responsibilities as HR department. So it was just coming from the top management. One more thing, that companies who involve strategy for employee safe distancing, they don't have the rules and the guidelines, and they are not capable to create their own rules. So they were just following the government rules. So this is like create like for us a challenge to that there is no accurate data, and actually there is lack of data at the same time. The last constraint was that companies leaders were conservative to provide and share such information for different reasons, such as privacy, accuracy, and they have doubt to be aligned with the government rules. In order to illustrate what we expect to find through our research, that theory or the conceptual framework for this research, we choose the strategic flexibility theory. The lens of why we choose that, because the lens of that theory of strategic flexibility serves to understand the responsiveness of firm to economy and other pressure, especially during a crisis, and the benefit of a proactive rather than reactive attitude. Also, the ability to do something other than originally intended. So the importance of this theory, it can serve to understand leaders' ability to precipitate and adapt to internal and external change by modifying strategies that help organizations to quickly respond in a proactive as well reactive strategy to better mitigate any risk. So during coronavirus pandemic, leaders who had this knowledge were able to adapt companies quickly and align with the new changes and rules. So it's the understanding of the strategic flexibility theory, it helps leaders to achieve an efficient flexibility where business innovator required a nuanced assessment of the relationship between structural change, managerial awareness, and change control. So companies leaders who were prepared to implement this strategic flexibility were able also to make the right decision immediately when the government started the lockdown, and were able to change their initial strategies quickly. The research questions, the main questions for the research, it was what human resource strategies minimize workforce disruption in pursuit to beneficial business solution amidst to the pandemic. And this main questions followed by 5 other questions. It was open-ended questions with participants. So the significance of the study. The coronavirus pandemic imposed a new approach for leaders to deal with such situation to ensure business sustainability and employees' morale. To the finding of this study may be significant to manager in the Middle East, as the knowledge generated may contribute to overcoming obstacles to developing and implementing strategy for employees to work remotely, and also it helped them to be agile working in a changing landscape in the future. Also, where the HR department, especially in local companies here in the region, were not involved in setting and implementing a strategy to shift business from offline to online and to set rules of safe social distancing and so on. So the finding of this study could provide a fruitful insight for managers and employees to get experience and knowledge how to lead change in the organization, and give more responsibility also to the HR department to be responsible to handle in the future such situations. There is also an essential point where the finding of this study may highlight it is to increase the awareness about the benefit of working online, and that this strategy reduce organizational cost and increase employees' productivity if we implement it in a professional way. So, because based on some experience here, employees were more productive, and the performance of employee was better when they work online. So what is the method and design for this research? Actually, for this study, we used the qualitative method because we think that a qualitative case study, it helped to understand better the ideas and the insight, and to understand the human dynamic, and to get insight from people better. And we selected, actually, we were prepared ourselves to interview 5 HR managers. But as I mentioned before, it wasn't like part of the responsibility of HR managers. That's why we interviewed 5 business leaders or head of department in the organization. But those people, the criteria to select those people to have experience in leading, shifting business from offline to online, and have experience in designing and implementing the strategy. So after we collecting data, we did the analysis for this data. We created the transcriptions for this data, and we did the analysis and come up with 3 emerged themes. The first question, it was, what are some HR strategy who have had to implement to counter COVID-19? Based on the participant answer for this question, the main interview ontologies focused on the role of the HR department in the Middle East organization, where all participants share the same idea that the HR department were not prepared or involved in planning and implementing the strategies, and that there is lack of knowledge and experience at the HR department. Also, according to participants, companies implemented different strategies to ensure safety and sustainability. Some companies, especially who are dealing with international companies, were able to give working flexibility for employees to when they start, when they finish their work, based on specific personal circumstances. However, some companies applied salary reduction in response to the decrease of the revenue to survive for a long period. And other companies decided to lay off employees to reduce cost. So this is part of our type of strategies that companies use it. And participants stressed that strict rules and guidelines have applied by companies to ensure employees' safety, and to create an effective and open communication system within the team members to ensure that all understanding the new system and they are aligned with it. Eventually, the teams emerged from question number 1 is that companies created healthcare programs to ensure employees' safety in case they are working on site, and they provide them daily update about the rules and regulation, internal and external regulations. Regarding this, the question number 2, how did you handle some of the challenges you face in transitions employees to work remotely? As we know that some sectors, they already have the experience to work online. So shifting business from offline to online wasn't a problem for them. However, other sectors and companies were experiencing this method for the first time and tried to engage employees and to provide them special training to understand the new working process. So one of the main challenges faced company was the inability to meet a client which has affected sales revenue. Example, the healthcare companies, the pharmaceutical company, people who are working in sales. That's why companies try to accelerate the adaptation of the video conference program to stay in contact with the client. With note that in many countries in the Middle East, these programs are prohibited. So in general, companies try developing and adapt different solutions to overcome challenges emerged during the shifting period from offline to online. And the common task among all companies, it was to train employees and test their ability to work virtually and ensure to be productive. So this challenge imposed immediate and crucial action for business leaders to mitigate this risk, which is cost company additional money, and to keep eye on the financial indicator to equilibrium between the expenses and the income, and to classify the priority. Regarding the question number 3, which is how are employees monitored with remote working, the implementation of the new system to work virtually was a challenge for most companies, especially for small and medium enterprises where they don't have the foundation to operate online. So some companies try to create their own plan, and others try to get support and help from other and sometimes from the governments. However, the main challenge was to align employees with the new system, which is imposed daily and effective meeting through different communication platforms. In addition to this training, they try to improve their communication skills and other also soft skills like internet, computers. So, and this is the problem that faced many teachers in schools actually to use this platform to teach students. Leaders also found that the daily evaluation to employees' performance and productivity will help them to control and track the implementation of the strategy, and also help the employees to overcome the challenges and the problems that might face in the daily control and guidance of the supervisions or and the leaders. And very important decision took by leader is to share always the best practices with all employees within the organization to ensure that all aware about it and avoid any conflict in the future. For the question number 4, how will social distancing or new norm affect the future business? The analysis of these questions revealed that participants assured that the pandemic outbreak and the transition to work online imposed an acceleration in digital transformation initiatives. However, this transformation creates kind of uncertainty about the future of business and the method that people should use, especially for tasks that request high level of planning and discussion. And some businesses who are based on people interaction, such as like event, conference, sales, something like this, confused about the future on how this event will be organized later on, if people will be able to participate, and how will affect marketing activities and the sponsorship. From the other side, some participants affirm that this norm will positively affect the business, where they consider that the flexible working hour increase the productivity and employees' performance, especially if it's supported by effective training and good communication method. For the last questions, which is like what advices they can give it to others. So leaders provided actually very good information and insight for HR managers and companies leaders to capitalize on technology and leverage from offshore options where it's easier now to gain access to it. And participants stressed the importance of following internal and external rules and guidelines to keep employees updated. And also that employees' motivation and training is the key of success and sustainability for any organization. So they ensure that must for any company to motivate and train people, because they are the key factor for success. Also, they suggested that company must pay more attention and care about employees and customers, because they are the key resource and vital to the success for any organization, and to convert the threats to an opportunity, which is very important point. After the analysis of the interview questions, we can go to the key research finding, where participant answers revealed actually many insights that could provide best practices and help business leaders to implement in their organization. And here we can categorize the key findings of the study into 3 parts. The first one is the role of the HR department and manager to prepare and implement strategies to overcome challenges during crisis. So the finding of this study reveals that the HR department in the Middle East region are not involved in this type of decision, and there is lack of experience and knowledge in planning and implementing changes in strategies. So in the Middle East region companies, these tasks are individual and not related to managers and leaders to drive any change. So it was like individual, each department, each manager can take his decision. The second category of finding is related to the technology, and that companies try to implement new technology system and to train employees to use this platform, which is creating significant challenges, such as creating an evaluation benchmark and controlling work efficiencies. Also, it was one of the important tasks is to engage employee in using this technology efficiency and to have an efficient communication through this platform internally and externally. The last category of this finding is the employees' strategies used by company to keep motivate employees and try to create a healthy environment to support them through some online entertainments or a special session with a psychiatrist to maintain spirit and confidence and reduce employee stress and the pressure. So this activity, as per some participants, helped employees to focus on work and reduce the pressure and improve their mental. The goal of the research team and what's next. We have witnessed many companies in the Middle East have struggled during the lockdown period. And the immediate shift of business to online create a challenge and problem for this company. That's why we have tried during this period to help those companies by providing them free consultancy and the training to overcome the shift with low risk and damage. So the objective of this research is to reveal some of these challenges faced by the Middle East companies and leaders, and to provide them the best practices and solutions to put them on the track. That's why we are trying to share some successful experience from people who were prepared and quickly adapted to the new situation. From the business side, the insights emerged from this research could help the HR manager and employees to start being involved in planning and implementing strategies and be able to have flexibility in modifying any strategy in less risk and cost. From the academic side also, the finding of this research may provide a new approach to students and higher educational institutes about the role of the HR department, which could create a significant positive change in the new understanding of the HR concept to be aligned with the international standards. So this study will be publishing hopefully later on in the international journal to provide, and the findings of this research will be available in many libraries to provide very good insight for people who are looking to develop themselves and improve their organization. Finally, as we know, the pandemic outbreak revealed that the HR department role is crucial for the organization. To succeed implementing changes in strategy, especially during crisis, so companies must develop a rigid business structure and must be flexible to adapt to internal and external changes by modifying strategies that help organization to quickly respond in a proactive as well as reactive strategy to better mitigate risk. And during coronavirus pandemic, leaders who had this knowledge and adaptive mindset were able to adapt companies quickly and align with the new changes and rules. Also, we advise companies leaders to create an effective communication system or plan to be sure that all employees are aligned with the top management vision and understanding the process. We also recommend keeping training and development, because training and development are very important for organization as part of organization strategy due to the significant positive impact on employees' performance, productivity, creativity, and innovation. So this is actually a brief about our research. I don't know if you have any questions, please let me know.
We welcome any questions. So I have one question, Dr. Ali.
Yeah.
In that recently you had completed, before the pandemic, research on the pharmaceutical and healthcare industry.
Yes.
Did you see any similarities between that research and this research? There were different conditions.
Yes, actually, before it was like a marketing strategy for pharmaceutical company. But what I realized, two things actually. The lack of experience at some top management, especially because both were in the Middle East. And the second one is the lack of data. And there is no accurate data, and the lack of knowledge also at the top management. So during the pandemic here, we found that many leaders, they were not able to take the right decision to overcome or take a risk, at least, because we are in the pandemic, so we have to take action. So some leaders were not able to take action. So this two part, lack of knowledge at the leaders and the lack of data and accurate data, it was like a common we can say limitation or problem that we faced in both research that we conducted in the region here.
Okay, thank you. Well, yesterday's one of the speakers spoke on big data. And typically in the Middle East, data, as you rightly point out, is a problem for different reasons and different factors. But hopefully with more data available and the online world, maybe that problem will recede to some extent. It will never disappear, but hopefully there will be more data in the future. So thank you very much for your presentation. Any other questions?
I just wanted to, this is Dr. Patterson. Can I just interject something?
Yes, sure.
So great study. I think what's going on globally, even from an HR perspective, from my experience, is, and to be all fair to the HR departments, is that they've never encountered something of this magnitude before. And as a result of that, I think everybody from a strategic planning standpoint does not know how to go ahead and address it, what's going on currently, and then what's going to happen post-pandemic. And that, I think, is the biggest strategy issue, because the HR departments knows what's going on today, but what happens when we start to migrate back into what we consider to be normal? Organizations are finding all this additional space. And now, do we stay remote? Don't we stay remote? What positions should stay remote? How do you hold people accountable? There's some legality issues here in terms of paying for internet and space and everything else. So right now, I think that globally we're in a situation of chaos.
Yes, for sure. And actually, this is what we are trying always to say, that the right manager and the right management is not in the like booming times. So the right management appeared when you have this type of a crisis. So here you can see if there is a good management, there is a good leaders or not. So this is very important. And to be honest, based on my experience and what I realized during this period, that many companies that they face this problem because they don't have the right leaders and they don't have the right structure within the organization, from the HR to top management, to overcome or to take decision actually to overcome the challenges and the changes that should happen during the pandemic.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ali, once again.
Thank you.
And we can go to our next presentation. And the next presentation is by Mr. Shyam Kamath. Presentation is History and Evolution of the Indian Banking System to Contemporary Times. So the moment. Okay, so let me give you a little background into Mr. Kamath. Mr. Kamath has had a distinguished career in the banking industry, has served in one of the largest banks in India. They were known as Syndicate Bank, and they are also originally possibly from the Karnataka state Manipal region. But coming back to Mr. Kamath holds a bachelor's degree in science, is a lawyer, and has other accounting and degrees. He's had a distinguished career in banking. And one of the reasons why his presentation is very important is because India is now poised to grow by leaps and bounds, as we can see the enormous success and progress. It is close to being, it is one of the first 5 economies in the world after the United States, China. So it has overtaken some of the economies like Great Britain and so on. And this phenomenal rise warrants that we know something of the banking industry, the banking growth, because it's such an important economy. And who better to tell us than somebody from the banking industry itself? So Mr. Kamath has over 20 years of experience, and we look forward to him sharing the story of the Indian banking industry. Over to Mr. Kamath.
Thank you. Thank you, Lionel D'Souza.
You're very welcome.
I take this opportunity to thank the organizers of the symposium for having given me this opportunity to speak here. My presentation, as Mr. Lionel said, it's on history and evolution of Indian banking system. to contemporary times. I have to, let me share my PPT. Shrikant is there?
Oh, Dr. Shrikant, you there? You have it open?
Yeah, I've opened it. I'm going to the slideshow.
There's a green
Okay. Am I?
place they call share screen.
Is my PPT seen on the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No. Let me.
Now? Is it there?
No, not yet. Uh, Let me see if I.
Now?
No, it is not there yet.
Oh no. Because I'm getting it on my screen here.
Okay.
No. Is it there? Now?
Yes.
It's there.
Do a slideshow.
Yeah. Slideshow, I'll do it. Okay.
Okay.
Is it there?
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, the organizers and the audience on the western side of the globe, and good evening to the ones on the eastern side. My presentation today, as I said, it's on history and evolution of Indian banking system to contemporary time. As I said, the pandemic has affected every sphere of life, including the banks. And I was really concerned. The banks should not get affected, I used to think. This concern of mine brought me back to the positive aspect of the bank. I knew the bank would sail through and come to a safer zone. And with these thoughts, I was taken back. I'm literally taken back to my banking days from 1994 to 2013. Those days, I would tell you, the banks used to be crowded, the bank branch. As I visit the branch, I would see at least 50 people on an average day waiting for me. And these 50 people were there to avail loan under the government sponsored scheme, what we would call the priority sector scheme. Among them, the most important were the vendors, the street vendors, small business people, and more importantly, few women who belong to a group or the concept called the self-help groups. This section of the society, they were supposed to be underprivileged, not developed, lack of opportunity, and the government, right from the independence days, wanted to bring them up, and they had this priority sector arrangement in the banks. These vendors, I would say, they are the part of this GDP. They are the drivers. They are the engine of our GDP because they are in millions. India, with such a huge population, with such people, I would call them entrepreneurs because they are the people who decide on the road, they sell, they price their product, they do the marketing on the spot, and they contribute to the economy. Similarly, the self-help groups, it was brought, this concept I'm sure everyone is aware, it is there in India right from say 20 to 30 years now, and millions of women's groups are there. These groups are meant to enhance the confidence of women. As we say, women were a suppressed class in India, but this group concept has really evolved them. It has made them more empowered. These groups would open an account in the bank, and each one will contribute 100 rupees or so in their weekly meetings, and that is credited to the bank. Supposing the balance reaches, say, 10,000 rupees in their group account, they would get a loan to the tune of, say, 10 to 15 times of the balance. This money would be distributed among the group members, 5 or 10 of them at a time, and they would repay it in a span of 1 year. You know, this concept, saving, obtaining loan, meeting every week and planning their progress, planning what to do with the money, this has brought in a lot of empowerment, and I am a witness to it because I used to go and attend this SHG meetings, self-help groups, and I've seen these women really progress. And this is the real joy I used to get. You know, the loan that we disperse used to be, 5,000 for a vendor, maybe 10,000 for a small business. And for SHGs, it may be 2 or 3 lakhs. And this is small compared to, the corporate loans or big business loans. But the amount of joy that we got that was tremendous because they were contributing tremendously to the gross domestic product. Modern thinkers, of course, they did not consider these people as any contributors, and people should be aware, of course, that they are a part of the Indian economy. Other class of borrowers, of course, in the branch, I used to see the big business people having their account. They come to the branch to operate the company account, the employee's account. Company will have big, huge loans, machinery loans. They will have bank guarantee, letter of credit facilities, and so many import, export facilities. These people would come every day and they expect good service to them, and we used to provide them. So this a branch like what we worked in the Nationalized Bank is a mix of the small borrowers and the big borrowers. So we were doing sort of multitasking every day in the branch. To handle such a massive transaction, these transactions are really massive every day. You may not find it in Western countries. The banks are usually empty. People don't flow into the bank. But whereas in India, it's entirely different. We have a lot of people. Those days, of course, in the 90s, branches used to be crowded because Depositors would come, government program people, borrowers, big borrowers, small borrowers. It used to be a hell of a confusion those days. So for this, the bank has really evolved and got itself suited for such kind of operation. And the history and the evolution has happened. It has happened in a gradual course. Let me say, it has happened right from say uh, Vedas time or Harappan, Indus Valley civilization time. Vedas were the religious text. It was so evolved those days, 1500 to 1200 BC. If it was so evolved, we definitely felt that there must have been financial rules and regulations which were there earlier. So we would say the banking system started right from those days, and the kingdoms and eras that went on from 2200 BC to Anno Domino AD, and prior to that, of course, I would talk about the Mauryan period. Maurya 321 to 185 BC, quite early. I chose this Chanakya. Chanakya was we call it Artha Shastra, means financial treatise. He is the one who promoted economic policies. He was a great administrator. So definitely in his economic policies, he had something to do with the borrower, deposits, and that's the banking. The kingdoms and eras, and it went on, and in AD we went on. Every kingdom definitely had something to do with the banking, and the banking kept evolving. If I talk about Mughal period now, 1526, that's in AD, 1761. Mughals, as everyone know, invaded India, and their initial idea was to loot and destroy the civilization, because Indian civilization, everyone was, these people, of course, came with the jealous ideas. But later on, there came the benign rulers, and the Mughal period really became, it developed those, later on. Those days they had these usury bills, letter of credit, and loan deeds in their banking system. Then came the colonial period, the East India Company coming in and establishing themselves all over India, and British government taking it over. Along with them, the French and the Dutch and the Portuguese. We call it a colonial period. I would say 1757 was the time when the British government took over, perhaps, the administration of whole of India. And that was a time when modern banking started in India. Bank of Hindustan, General Bank of India. These are some of the banks I have, picked up. Outh Commercial Bank Limited. This is supposed to be one of the the first company that came in the banking industry. And Bank of Calcutta, 1829. This Bank of Bengal was a provincial bank. They call it Presidential Bank, Bengal Presidency. Of course, it was a presidential bank. The banking evolved, and then came the pre-independence. The presidency banks, Bank of Bengal in 1809, Bank of Bombay 1840, Bank of Madras 1843. The British government perhaps thought that they would merge these banks and make into Imperial Bank of India. It was in 1921. This was supposed to be a controlling bank, like how the Reserve Bank is functioning now. It was like Reserve Bank those days. And this Imperial Bank was transformed into State Bank of India, of course, in 1955. Prior to that, the British government brought in Reserve Bank of India, which took control of central bank functions from Imperial Bank. End of 19th century, and the beginning of 20th century, plenty of banks came in, commercial banks. They grew big, and some of them collapsed. New banks came, kept coming up. 2019-15 to 1925, a lot of banks and a lot of failures. That's because perhaps there was a pandemic. Spanish flu was supposed to be in that period, maybe First World War. A lot of failures were there. But this Allahabad Bank, which is one of the nationalized banks now, started in 1865. That survived. Punjab National Bank survived 1894. Along with that, 1910 onwards, so many other private banks started. And the post independence era, formation of big commercial banks continued. 1935, of course, prior to the independence, Reserve Bank had formed, and 1949, after the independence, an important regulation was brought. That was Banking Regulation Act. This brought legal framework to the bank, and the banks really improved because every bank which started was brought under this act, and they had to function within this legal framework, and they had benefits, they had uh, legal entities, they had legal provisions to go do anything. Post-independence, these commercial banks, of course, were not working as per the government liking. Perhaps Nehruvian philosophy those days, 1947 onwards, was more of a socialistic pattern. We were leaning towards, as everyone knows, towards USSR, and big PSUs came up, and along with that, these private banks were functioning and they were making profits. Government was not satisfied. They were not able to implement their ideas or those priority sector which they had planned in these commercial banks. And this is a reason perhaps made them nationalize 14 major banks in the year 1980. That was the time when Mrs. Gandhi was there. She nationalized 14 banks, and in 1980, again, 6 more banks were nationalized. That made it 5 more banks, 19. Then later on, some more banks were nationalized. It went on to 27. The nationalization saw the real growth. The outreach was so huge. The banks were given all the powers to open branches all over the country in thousands. Thousands of bank branches were opened. And opening branches in rural areas became a policy. Like these banks, if they had to open one branch in a city, they had to open 5 branches in rural area. Otherwise, they wouldn't get a license. This is the reason why the agriculture sector got all the loans that they needed. Lending to agriculture sector and the priority sector, as I said, lending to small borrowers and SHGs became, it became compulsory, and a part of the loan, say 15%, 18%, had to be given to this sector. To add to the agricultural support to the agriculture, regional rural banks were formed in 1975, and the nationalized banks sponsored it. Like say our bank, Syndicate Bank, we had about 5 regional rural banks that were spread all over the country. Similarly, all the nationalized banks had sponsored. So this gave impetus to the agriculture, further. To add to that, agriculture was promoted by the bank called NABARD, National Bank for Rural Development and Agriculture. This was formed in 1982. with all this encouragement to the agriculture and to the priority sector and other sectors, the banks grew, the gross GDP grew, agriculture grew, and there was green revolution. As you know, India was earlier importing food grains just after the nationalization, maybe up to the 70s also. But as the 80s passed, the green revolution took place and we became self-sufficient in our crops. Then came the big growth in the banks, the economy, the reforms, economic reforms, I would say 1991. I would say 1991 economic reform, if I give a background of it, 1980 onwards, there was growth, but there were disasters, the assassinations. Our Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, getting assassinated, and later on her son, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, during election campaign, getting assassinated in the 90s. And the government instability brought in a lot of problems to the economy. Economy slided down to such an extent that there was a crisis. And they had to really do a gigantic job. This was given to P.V. Narasimha Rao, who was the prime minister then in the 90s. And his finance minister was none other than Manmohan Singh. He was the erstwhile governor of Reserve Bank. With his expertise, he was appointed finance minister. And they are the one, P.V. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh. They brought in these economic reforms. And immediately they went in for liberalization. You know, our country was license Raj, they used to call. It was everything there was license because of, socialistic pattern. That USSR type, for every action, every new entities, there used to be license, and this licensing had brought in a lot of corruption. So to reduce that, the control was removed, and license Raj was, really abolished. For banking, they brought in different reforms, Basel norms. Basel, as everyone may be aware, it's a place in Switzerland, and the Switzerland banking norms were adopted all over the world for modern banking. That was adopted, and this Basel norm brought in regulation and supervision. With this regulation came in the capital adequacy norms. They had to, for the asset that is owned, that is asset that is created by the bank, had to be backed by proper, say, percentage of capital adequacy. Supposing, say, for 100 rupees, it should be at least, it should be 70. Those norms became very strict. That's how the banks got strengthened. And the banks were given absolute freedom. This government said no more of capitalization. Earlier, prior to this introduction of Basel norm and liberalizing the banks, government used to capitalize the banks almost every year because there was no profit motive, and banks kept giving loans, and if loans went bad, they didn't have proper channel for recovery. They were not developed so much. But with this, Basel norms came in, the regulation, the supervision, the credit appraisals, as per the Basel norms, gained strength. The banks started gaining strength, and the recovery, of course, recovery of the bank loans was brought under SARFAESI Act. This is Securitization and Recoveries of Finances Act. SARFAESI Act is very popular, even in other countries in a different form perhaps. But in India, the SARFAESI Act has become a powerful tool with the banks. And the banks started gaining profits. They were on their own, started paying dividends to the government. That was the scene within a span of say 10 years. Then came 2004 and 14. Prior to 2004, government's aim was to increase the GDP. Our GDP was growing at not less than 7, 8, 9, 10% an annum. So when this 2004, the new government came, they wanted to grow. They wanted to have unprecedented growth. So for unprecedented growth, the GDP had to grow more than 10%, and the banks had to get involved. And banks were told to give bigger loans liberally. That's where the problem arose. The fraudsters, defaulters, deliberate defaulters, they peeped in. Fraudsters peeped in. They came in, and money laundering, of course, they got an opportunity. And by 2010 onwards, the NPAs, non-performing assets, the bad loans started increasing in banks. Ideal NPA figure should have been less than 2%, and it was such prior to say 2008, 2006. Banks were healthy, very healthy. NPA percentage was 1%, 2%, less than 1%. And by 2012 onwards, it started rising. Bad loans, frauds, defaults, big defaults. If I have to quote some examples in defaults, I would say in the first example should be, there were hundreds, thousands of defaults, of course. The most prominent one is Kingfisher Airlines. It was such a prominent airline, and they were the favorites of the government or the banks. Kingfisher Airlines got loan for asking any amount, and they just kept on borrowing, and the overconfidence of these funds made them to take over an airline which was sick. They took over an airline and grew bigger, and then started the downfall. Kingfisher Airlines, everyone knows, was a big problem in the bank when it became an NPA account. Similarly, Jet Airways, big. 25 years it flourished. It was a well-managed company. You don't know what happened. It seems Jet Airways, because of the liberal finances available to them, ordered for 40 jet aircrafts at that time. Maybe, they took such decisions with this overconfidence with the funds. And Jet Airways went into loss, and everyone knows Jet Airways that doesn't exist now. The fraudsters, of course, I would give you recent example of Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi, that is diamond merchant who defrauded bank to billions of, say, even in dollars, I would say billions of dollars. They planned their fraud. They got friendly with some bank employees. Of course, their LCs, very simple way they did it. They had LCs open, in foreign country, and it used to be confirmed, letter of confirmation or whatever they call it. And these confirmation used to, be given in, just like that. And on that confirmatory letter, banks would finance these people, and it went into billions of dollars. And if one fine morning, both these people were not in India. They left India, and the whole of their loan became bad loans. These are the examples. There were so many people did it, so many thousands, and back came into real problem. NPAs more than 10%. And when the new government came in 2014, they had to really step in to set right the bank. First, the non-performing assets, the bad loans. The SURFACE Act was strictly implemented. With the SURFACE Act, they could sell the securities, they could recover the securities, and that was done right earnest, right as per the rules. And the government was good enough to bring in bankruptcy code. Earlier, the governments were hesitant. And this new government, I would say our dynamic prime minister, this is one of the big acts he did, bankruptcy code. All these big borrowers who had defaulted were brought under this. They had no escape. Otherwise, what would happen is they would protect their properties. They would file a civil suit in a court to slow the procedure of attachments. And that would go on for years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. With this Bankruptcy Act, these people's properties were attached. The properties which were secured by the bank were attached with it. And within 6 months, it was realized their private properties attached, realized, and the overdues were brought down to a great extent. That's how the banks regained its strength and the confidence. This is the way the bank has progressed, and it has seen its downfall. It has seen upwards movement also. And along with that, right from the 80s or 2000 onwards, they have adopted, the technology. The technology came in the form of CBS, core banking solutions. That is anywhere banking, to call it in simple terms. Then came along with that internet banking, the quick funds transfer avenues called RTGS or NEFT, wherein the funds were transferred in seconds. Of course, this is very popular all over the world, perhaps. Earlier, funds transfer was a big problem. It used to be done in the form of telegraphic transfer or demand drafts. All those things came into, it went into hiding. And telebanking, because mobile banking came recently. The government popularized ATMs to make people, visit their visits, reduce their visits to the bank branches. ATMs were popularized. Thousands of ATMs opened all over the country. This Google Pay, Beam app, all this came, of course, after demonetization. I'll take it up when the demonetization comes. And UPI, Unified Payment Interface, all these have come into play now. And new generations bank were also given license. Like new generation banks are private banks, which functioned something like the banks in Western countries. Less of people in the bank and more of sophistication. When those banks came, people thought nationalized banks will have problems, but it did not happen. Nationalized banks were powerful. With fraud prevention and cyber security in place, the banks had really progressed. Then came demonetization. This is one of the steps which was a great step which improved the bank functioning, or it was a big challenge to the bank. With demonetization came the cost of funds. A lot of funds came into the bank, and the cost of funds reduced. Banks were able to reduce the lending rates. Digital banking, that is the favorite of our Prime Minister. He wanted to popularize this, and this is the right moment he thought of during the demonetization. Digital banking was popularized, and of course the black money flowed. And if I say black money flowed, you may be wondering how this black money flowed into the bank. When 98% of the fund notes were exchanged, there remained some percentage. That was a huge sum, of course, 3.25 lakhs crores. They thought this black money wouldn't come into the bank, but this black money flowed. Of course, if I start talking about it, it will be a big story. I wouldn't say that. People had resorted to commission agents and other people, and the black money came, the government couldn't do anything much. But it acted as a positive growth for the bank. This black money became white because it went to the came into the bank, and that's how the banks were happy enough to have flush funds with them. Demonetization, the banks withstood the challenge of note exchange, and banks became still stronger. Now coming on to the pandemic, maybe previous year's pandemic, 2019, lockdown of the whole country, whole economy coming to a halt, and banks getting a jolt with nobody functioning, no entities functioning, no economy running. Banks were in problem. People couldn't repay. And everyone, of course, would say 80%, at least 80% of the borrowers are affected. They couldn't repay. The government stepped in, and restructuring of loans were undertaken. This was a massive exercise undertaken by the government with the guideline given by the Reserve Bank. Restructuring now is happening in the bank, and they have been given time up to say March 2021 to observe the loans and restructure it to maintain the strength of the bank, the health of the bank. Of course, banks were told to provide at least 5% on all these loans, 5 to 10%. And for bigger loans, 1,500 crores and above, there was a committee formed which was called KB Kamath's Committee, which advised norms for restructure. That's again a big formula. I would not like to go into it. It's highly in detail. So this is how the pandemic affected the bank, and the banks were resilient. As I said, banks could, bear it. The pandemic effect, of course, the employees were given all the pay. Yesterday there was some discussion on PSUs not dispersing full salary and all that, but it did not happen here. Of course, I don't think it has happened even in other PSUs or any government organizations. Everyone was paid. Of course, people were given staggering hours. That was 50% of the people were coming to the bank because the banks could not have function. They could not function from the employees' houses like how these IT companies do. That's why visiting employees coming to the bank was compulsory. They had to come. This is how the pandemic was managed by the bank. Let me talk about the merger for a short while. It was started right from 2018. The State Bank of India was merged. They had subsidiary, 7 subsidiaries were there. It was merged into one bank, State Bank of India, and 27 nationalized banks became only 12 banks. Of course, I feel sorry. My Syndicate Bank also got merged. It became Canara Bank and Syndicate Bank together, one bank. Why this merges? People, you may ask me why, or you may have that. The main criteria for merger by the government, merger was resorted to give its, operating efficiency and have a stronger balance sheet. With a stronger balance sheet would mean the global reach of the banks would be more effective. Banking system as such will gain strength in dealing with big customers. That is one of the main criteria when in an international scene. If the bank size is not big, earlier prior to this mergers, perhaps we were nowhere. Our banks were nowhere in 150th also. With this merger, the State Bank of India, SBI, came within one of the 10 banks, it is told. I'm not very sure, but maybe at least one of the 25 big banks in the world. And with the merger of PSU banks, they also fall within, say, 50 major banks in the whole of the world. With this, they will be able to deal with foreign transactions, big loans in a foreign country, with a big capital structure. They will be able to have big capital exposure, big loan exposures. That's how this merger is going to affect the banks. It is for the good. Concludingly, I would say, again, banks have evolved to meet our developing economy. It has evolved right from independence. Government programs, private sector programs, big loans. You know, banks always would say, think big and grow big. That was a philosophy which most of the banks adopted. Along with think big, socio-economic reforms was given a lot of importance. They had to follow it because it was a government directive. Weaker section and underprivileged class, getting a lot of priority, and this sector progressing along with the big sectors like corporate loans or big businesses. This is how the Indian banks evolved, and the pandemic or whatever it is came and it is there. Banks have got hit. Banks have become resilient. Banks are growing. Economy again. Indian economy is growing. The GDP is again on the track. So, in a year's time, perhaps we may reach the previous figures. And our prime minister, dynamic prime minister, wants to have an $8 trillion economy. We are aiming for that. A lot of slogans such as "Make in India" and banks becoming robust and the best banks. I would say Indian banks are always best. It would remain best even henceforth. They are the best banks in the world. With this, I would conclude giving big thanks to the organizers for having given me this opportunity. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamath, very much. I would like to see if there are any questions, and also to inform that these sessions are recorded. We will make these sessions available, including the PowerPoints, the abstracts, and we also aim to publish the proceedings of the conference. We aim to publish articles, even the studies will be published. So there's a lot of activity. It doesn't start and end with this conference. This conference is just the beginning, but tied into this conference will be a lot of proceedings and engagement in scholarship and research. Any other questions? Okay. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. Kamath. You took us right from the years before Christ to very contemporary post-pandemic, not post-pandemic, but demonetization and the impact on the pandemic. And it shows the resilience of the Indian economy, the very thriving banking sector, and the optimism of growth was also well articulated by you, that we expect things to be a 300 trillion economy, or 700 rather, I would say. And that speaks not only of the ingenuity and the industriousness of the people, but it also shows that India is going to be competitive in every field, from information technology to other fields. So once again, thank you very much. And now we would be ready. So our next speaker is Dr. Ada Meyer. And Dr. Meyer will present on healthcare management practices and quality of care, perspectives from Senegal, which is in West Africa. So we have in this conference gone from Australia, Singapore, Middle East, India, the United States, and we are now touching the continent of Africa through the presentation of Dr. Meyer. Dr. Meyer, are you ready?
Yes, give me 1 second, please.
Sure, take your time.
Good morning or good evening to each of you guys. So my name is Dr. Mayer and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, we cannot see you. We cannot see you.
You cannot see me?
No.
Yes,
I think
Yes,
Mr. Kamath, you'll have to take yourself out of the video.
I've already stopped sharing. Whilst
Yeah, stop sharing and possibly take your.
what else can I do after stopping the sharing?
You go and mute your. Click on your audio on your video.
Yeah, mute.
That will. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Dr. Maya, would you be able to?
Yes, can you see me?
Not yet. We cannot see you. Click on your video button. On the left-hand side, you've got a video, stop video and start video.
Okay, can you see me?
No, we cannot see you. Put your camera on.
Her camera is on.
Yeah, it's on. Because I can see myself.
Yeah, we can see. Actually, maybe somebody has shared his screen. And
Okay, so share the screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dilip, we've got Mr. Dilip Sadankar, who's an expert on this. He can guide us.
Okay, can you see me?
It's going to appear. Yes, now we can see you. Now the slideshow.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me change this one. Good morning and evening. My name is Dr. Ada. Can you hear me?
Yeah, do a slideshow. Slideshow. Go to slideshow and do a slideshow.
Yeah, it's on slideshow.
No, it is. I don't think it is on slideshow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th button on your screen on your computer will do a slideshow.
Can you see it?
Above. No. You've got file, home, insert on your screen. Yeah, go and click on slideshow.
Click F5, that will also work maybe.
Say that one more time.
Click on F5 button, F5 on your keyboard.
Click on F5 on your keyboard.
Okay, I did.
F5. Otherwise, go on top. Your frame starts with file.
Okay.
Then go down one more. One more. Go 5 down till you see slideshow. No, keep your file there. Open your file back to where you were. Back to where you were. Open it. Go up. Now there's slide. Go one more. 2 more down. Go down to the right. Go to the right. To the right. Up. Go up. 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 Know where you are. Where file is. In line with file. Go 5 places. Go more right. Right. Take your cursor to the right. One more. One more.
Okay.
Yeah. Now
can you see?
Go from the beginning. Go from the beginning, right? Yes. Click on it.
Okay. Much better?
That's it. Yes. Now you can use your down arrow key to go from slide to slide. So let me give you a little background on Dr. Meyer. Dr. Meyer is an accomplished marketer in retail and is the CEO of a retail chain in Arizona, USA. She holds a bachelor's degree in information technology, a master's, and a doctorate in business administration in international business and management from Grand Canyon University. Her research includes studies in the United States and performance management of healthcare workers and quality in Senegal, Africa. The study is on how management practices influence healthcare worker performance in the quality of care. So I would now turn you over to Dr. Ada Meyer. Go ahead, doctor.
To every one of you. My name is Ada. So first of all, I would like to talk about a little bit about the Senegal healthcare and the COVID-19 pandemic in Senegal, West Africa. As you all aware of, the whole world has been affected with this COVID-19. And most likely Senegal also and most of this African country has been affected. And our problem is we have, before even the COVID-19, we have a very poor healthcare services. So, and just to give you a little background of Senegal, it's a developing country and it's located on the West Africa. So it's a rich French colonial, meaning like we all speak French and French is our heritage. So the problem we experience in Senegal right before the pandemic and after the pandemic is we are experiencing challenges in the healthcare system. So why those challenges? So those challenges is comes with the poor government, and also it's caused by human resources shortage. So basically our human resources is very, very poor. Sometimes you even wonder if we do have what we call human resources or if we do apply it in the workplace. So the lack of strategy also for improving the workers' performance also is a big problem. So this study is mainly focusing on to try to figure out what are the problems that we can implement in improving the workers' performance, and also what are the solutions that we can also put in place as far as quality of work. Because if there is no quality of work, so workers' performance, if there's no workers' performance quality, there is no quality of care to deliver. And also the other issues we have is the lack of medical in the healthcare system. So the COVID-19 pandemic in Senegal, so we have experienced our first COVID-19 case, maybe I would say February 2006. And during that time also goes all the way to March, we have actually suspected 26 cases. So this is just a demographic. So it shows like 14 female and 12 men, and there was tested positive at that time, which was not a big numbers. And how do we get to that? It was from people that come in the country. So we call them like imported cases. And the age group of the patient, so it varies. So it ranges just a very small population group. So it's like from the 3 to 8 years old. And so this is just a little bit to give you a little bit background of the patients we have. So also, when I did some research, also it came to find out that most Francophone West African countries, there was very low risk of the viruses. So the reason why is because we had very limited people air traffic that coming from China. So most of these people that had the virus or brought it to the country, so they was coming from Europe, but we do not have that much traffic as compared to the United States here, that people was coming from all over the world. So this seems like shocking to us, but a lot of these people in Africa does not seems to care, or they kind of minimize the virus that, oh, well, we have what we call the malaria, and malaria has killed so many people back in the days. And then we have also what we call the Ebola, and everybody knows that the Ebola also was a deadly disease, but still, we do not have that much of a death. So we have few deaths related to the virus in Africa. And were we prepared? No, we was not prepared. And like you said, so probably it could be due to the climate, or it can be also due because the people was very human to it because of all the stuff that used to happen in Africa. So in March 2020, so we have also find out that the COVID pandemic also hit few regions in West Africa. So I did not enumerate all those countries, but few countries in West Africa has been touched. But Senegal was one of them, maybe with a little bit of a large cases number. So, but what they did is the government, the health organization, they came up with what they call the Crisis Management Committee. So the crisis management committee was set in place, and what it does also, it was helping the public and then organizing also measure that could stop the spread of the corona. So, but so far we did also what we call implementing the country-wide lockdown, but we do not actually stick to it. So people was just like fighting for it and say, well, why do we have to do the lockdown? Because we are living in a country that it's poor. So basically, if they lock down the country, people do not have any other means to go and work, in order to provide. So basically, people thought about it, and then actually they partially locked the country, but then after that, they opened up the country. So that happened between June 2020 also. So they lifted the restrictive measures because there was really, like I said, pressure from the population. So this is just to give you little details of what I found out also for the COVID cases. And this is very accurate. So I guess it was like November 20th or the 21st or 22nd. So Senegal actually has 15,897 cases. So out of the 15,098 cases, so 15,516 recover from the disease. So what that tells you that, the disease cannot do much to us, and compared to like how it's really affecting the United States and Europe, So we have experienced only 330 deaths. And the 330 deaths, how do we get that? It's like this vulnerable population. So these are elderly people, or these could also be people that really have like a medical condition. So those ones was really affected, and that's what actually resulted to the death. But other than that, they was able, so our healthcare system was able to provide some means or accommodation, so then these people did survive from the virus. And if you look at also in the United States, there was like 12.7 million, and then also the death rate was high. And you compare to India also, it was 9.22 million, and the death rate also was high. So Brazil, so this was just like a couple countries that I picked just to compare with the cases in Senegal. So basically what I found out from the COVID-19 cases worldwide, so Africa was actually, I would say was better with this, to fight this disease than compared to any other countries. So again, this was another numbers that I gathered. So the coronavirus cases, 15,908, and the death was also raised just one more. So there was one more death recently, so 331. and recovering 15,527. And this was November 24, which means like it was just yesterday. So updated cases, we have 11 new cases yesterday, and then 1 new death. So this was yesterday. Now, the problem in Senegal in response to COVID. So this is where my management practices came in place, because I was trying to see how we can implement some management practices that could affect, improve the workers' performance, and then affect also the quality of care that we deliver to the public hospital or to the patients. So there is a limited understanding of the management healthcare practices in Senegal, that's for sure. And then also, in addition to most African countries, so we do have we have a problem of hospitalization. Like here, we don't have the means, so we have fewer hospital beds, and the population, we have a huge population, but then also we don't have the medical equipment that we need, and we don't also have the clinician also to do the job. So basically, you can see like 2 medical facilities over 10,000 population. You can see just a fewer clinician, like maybe you can have 50 or less than 50. So basically, this disease could not be something that, if we're not human to it, it could not be something that the population will survive, because it will kill us. So also, the purpose of the study, again, is just to explore how the healthcare management practices will influence the workers' performance and also the quality of care during the pandemic. Now, based on this study, how was I able to just to find out with all what I found out from the study? I used the conceptual framework of the theory of performance, it's called. So the theory of performance was developed by Elgar. And what the theory of performance helped me to do is it helps me to provide a clear understanding of the health professional performance management. And this theory of performance covers like 6 concepts. So it covers the context, and I will detail it later one by one. And then it covers the level of knowledge, the level of skills, level of identity, personal factors, and mixed factors. So all these concepts are concepts that are related to management practices, and it helps me to figure out like what are the factors that can influence the management practices in a good way, quality of care. So the concept is like, what's the participant's perspective on the situation? So of course, everyone has a different perspective of how they can see different things in different angles. And then the level of educations or skills, it shows like the participants that like the education level they have, and then the training they obtain, and also what are the strategies or expertise that they come up with. And the level of identity shows how well individuals cope with society. Because let's say, for instance, you're working in an organization, so everybody have their different mentalities and they come from different backgrounds. So basically, okay, can we turn on the noise, please? Okay, thank you. So the level of identity, it shows also how individual copes with society. So basically working to find out all of this, or working in an organization, so everybody have different perspective of how they do things and stuff. So the level of knowledge is like, it shows, first of all, the level of knowledge that you have within what you're doing, and then also the organizational structure, how that organization in Senegal, how they are structured, and then also the adaptation of the technology. And the personal factors also, these are conditions that people are facing in the workplace. And in Senegal, like any African country, like I said, we're not out there yet that we have like really hands-on new technology and innovation. So basically people are facing difficulties in working with colleagues and in the workplace too. And the fixed factor, these are factors that could not be like we cannot predict it. So these factors include the government, and then also it include also the environment. And again, we are, Senegal is a very corrupt country, just like every African country. So we are one of those #1 corrupt country in this world. And these frameworks also helped me to develop what we call like, the research process, and then also the method that I choose for this. And also it helps me to choose a data instrument. And this data instrument that I choose from this research was, I just used the interview process. And also I did use what they call the focus group. So the interview was one-on-one interview, and the focus group was a group of 4 to 5 people together, and everybody just had to bring their own input. And also I did select a couple of empirical articles in journals, so just to make a little bit of comparison of the study. So the significance of this study, like I said, every organization depends on the performance of the workers. So it is very important that we do have workers' performance, because when the workers are not motivated, no work can be done perfectly. So this will help definitely in increasing revenue and sustainability in the long run. And also it will help also to improve the outcomes of the patients, like the delivery of care. So, and again, this study was developed in Senegal, and I only picked Dakar, which is the capital. So I did not extend it to the rural, just so lack of time, and but hopefully in the long run, it can be done also, just so that I can compare different geographical areas. Also, another significant that this study will contribute, it's a business imperative for the healthcare, or also it can help the clinician and the health administrator to just kind of change like their behaviors and see if they can implement good management practices. So the research design of this study, I did pick a qualitative research and a descriptive also method. So I did the interview 101, and the sample was very small sample. So it was just like doctors and nurses, just to get their output, because during this pandemic, most of the doctors and the nurses, they are the one that's on the front line, and they're the one that's see everything first before anyone else sees it. So the interview, the participants was just like 20 of them. So I picked between doctors and nurses and kind of mix it female and male, just to get everybody's output. Okay, how I was able to just develop 2 research questions to make it very simple. So the first one is, how do healthcare workers describe management practices that influence healthcare workers' performance in Senegal? And the second one also, it just goes towards how do healthcare workers describe management practices that impact the quality of care? Again, performance and quality, they go together, because when you're working and you're not putting all your effort and time in what you're doing, so you cannot deliver a good outcome of what you're looking for. So basically, when the motivation first leads to performance, and then also it leads to quality of service. So findings. So based on the data analysis that I come up with, it shows that people was willing, there was a willingness to better communicate and work as a team. So that was #1. So people really needed to communicate. And what I found out in Africa is like, no one is not listening to anyone. So what you said, it doesn't matter. So it's just like, how I want to do it. I want to do it on my own way. So without better communication, so there was like really pair performance, because no one is not following comment. And then also expanding the knowledge and training for positive outcomes also, because they do have training and they perform training once in a while, but then the training is just not how we want it. So it's not like over here that when something new happens, then we kind of get together and talk about it and share knowledge, but then over there it's not like that. Okay, and then the other ones I found out is the organization structure. So the organization structure is very important, because it promotes the learning increase, and then the quality and flexibility, and then also at the end it leads to performance. But then the organization structure is not really what we're looking for. So they are very disorganized, and yeah, it's just very disorganized. And as you're all aware, that third world country is just what it is. So we don't have the means, we don't have the, all the stuff that we need to implement a better organization, a structure. So then the productivity also and organization commitment was based on the workers, but then also the lead, like the people that are on the head of the government or the head of the healthcare system. So we was lacking that. So basically the productivity reduces, and then also there is a poor performance. And the next one also is a transparency and leadership. So transparency and leadership is very effective for any organization. So whatever you do, your partners or your co-workers need to be aware of everything that you're doing, because we need to understand, like, okay, how the function of this. But in Senegal, so there's no transparency. Again, the reason why, when there is no transparency, there is no leadership. So that means, like, again, they're hiding so many details, or they're hiding so many information, and those information, if you're hiding information to your coworkers, so basically your coworkers is not gonna able to get what is essential to do the job right. So that also has to do with corruption and the lack of trust. So if you don't trust your workers, or you don't trust the government, or you don't trust whatever, so they reduce the workers' capacity, and also that creates a chaos there. So the key lesson from the literature. So basically, this one actually, the management practices require that you have an effective healthcare organization in order to have a higher productivity and a quality of care. So this is something that I found from a different article that it talks about it. And then also, this one shows that leaders need to build a relationship for strength quality. So these are comparing to other study. So this is their finding. So that they need to build a strong leadership. And again, the leadership goes with the government. It goes also with so many different things, and it goes with the environment, the organization, the workers. So definitely we need to build a strong leaders in order for Senegal to have a better management practices, and also improve the performance of their workers, and be able to deliver a good quality of service. So performance becoming a huge problem in every developing country. And the reason why, we all know that where there is a poor place, so, and poor government system, so definitely corruption is the key to the answer. And again, conclusion and recommendation. So we do have a lack of positive organizational structure. Basically is what's really, I could say, that affected the workers' attitude, because definitely we do have workers' attitudes over there. So people don't listen to anyone. Everybody does what you feel like doing, and they don't show no, no mercy at all to even to the patient, to anyone. And then the overall workers' performance decreases, and that also affects the quality of care. And management practices also that I found out that also could be a good recommendation also for the future study is creating an organizational culture. And that organization culture will goes towards the quality of care. And also maybe next time, or like myself could even conduct that study, or someone else can continue with the study, is just to conduct additional study in English speaking country, because this was conducted in English, but Senegal is a French country. So it was very kind of hard to engage multiple people or more people, or going to a different geographic zone, just because the limitation in the language, or the language barrier. So also it is important to identify concerns in areas of health policy. So the health policies, so we need to really focus or emphasize more health policies, and then also develop a strategy on human resources. Another area also that I found out that we lacking also that could affect the management practices there is a lack of transportation. So transportation is a problem. So ambulatory, so we don't have that many means of transportation. So ambulance is a big huge problem there. And then also the financial aspect. So the financial aspect also is a problem that we need to look at it. But then I will say that these are stuff that we can call the fixed factors that are that we cannot control, because it depends on the government. So the governments are the one that have the finance, and they are the one that controls like everything. So in order to provide the the facilities and then the equipment and all that goes with the tools. And then the communication also, lack of communication is very poor. So therefore we need to focus more on engaging the co-workers and then work as a team and conduct more seminars or meeting or something that we can discuss about innovation, discuss about technology and all this stuff. And also we need to fight corruption. But fighting corruption also is, it's an area that, I cannot develop further because like I said, I cannot control it, and it's going to be something that's going to be difficult to control. So this is something that maybe in the future government can look into that and see how they can control it or how they can minimize it, because due to corruption, that's why we're having this problem. And thank God that with the COVID-19, with all this problem that Africa is facing, especially in Senegal, so if we have a huge number of COVID-19, the whole population is gonna die. So this is gonna wipe out the whole African earth. So thank God for that. And then also, another recommendation also, we can have a knowledge sharing and in order to improve the quality of care. And the knowledge sharing again is, it can be so many things. So like, partner with other people and see what they do, something different, and then you can add that to your knowledge, or just, innovating. So there is so many things, embracing new technology and so many different things. So that also could contribute to knowledge sharing. And this also will help to improve the quality of care. So now recommendation. So further conduct studies, and this was a study that shows that it could be accountabilities in healthcare. So that could be a recommendation that I will say. So accountability in the healthcare. And they also come up with a program that's going to be called a universal healthcare coverage, because most developing countries do not have the universal healthcare coverage. Like here in US, if you compare to US, we do have we do have insurance, we do have insurance for the poor, or, however I can say it, whatever you can afford, maybe you can buy a healthcare, but then over there, you cannot buy healthcare. So this is all depend on, like, you working, and then you have what you call the indemnity, so something that they can help you to contribute towards your health benefit. But the population that do not have a health care, so they are the one that's actually, when they get affected with the COVID-19, or they are part of the vulnerable population, they end up dying just because they don't have the means, to take care of or none of their families also have the means to help them contribute on their healthcare. So basically, universal healthcare coverage. So we need to look at it into it, and this also help prevent any other diseases, like, in the long run. So, and also we need to build up relationship among the provider and then also the broader community. So we need to build a relationship, meaning like, when you have a community that is suffering from this and this, we should be able to help that community without asking for anything. But then in Senegal, that is a problem right there, because when you don't have the money, and then the rural population, for instance, come in, to get help, they're not going to get it because they don't have it. So therefore, we need to create like a community where they can be able to help when needed. And also employee turnover rate. So the employee turnover rate here in Senegal, we basically don't have any employee turnover because people are not quitting their job. And people not quitting their job has a big impact that has to do with low performance, and it has to do also with quality. Because if somebody is in the job for 20 plus years or 50 plus years and need to retire and not going nowhere because they are feeling that if they leave their job, they're not going to have any other means to substance their needs. So they're still going to be in the job. And that also is provide a poor quality, deliver poor quality, just because we are not using the young people that have the new technology, adapted new technology that could help reverse the situation. But then you're having the same people years and years and years ago, again, that's not actually going to help to deliver a good quality of care. And in another way also, we have to look at a competition, like you look at other countries, You look at United States and you look at every African countries, for instance, we need to be able to compete with those ones. And at the same thing, also every organization, whatever job they're doing, they're looking at profitability. So profitability also, you cannot have that if you don't have the good quality of services that you deliver or competitiveness. So, and I compare studies also in different African countries. So those ones also can help to see how those African countries also are managing or their management practices compared to Senegal, and then also the performance. So basically this is it. It's very short because I wasn't well prepared. So this is very short, but just to give you a little scenario of the COVID-19 in Senegal and then the management practices. So any question? Hello? Is there any questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ada. There were no questions. And any questions can always be sent to Dr. Shrikant or Dr. Me, that is Lionel D'Souza, and we will relay those questions to the speakers, get their responses, and address those questions. So on that note, thank you very much, Dr. Ada, for your perspectives on healthcare management in Senegal. We now turn to Dr. Cassandra Fonseca. Dr. Fonseca, are you there? Okay, Dr. Fonseca. Very good. So let me give you a little brief on Dr. Fonseca, a little bio introduction. Dr. Cassandra Fonseca is a registered nurse with over 25 years of experience. She retired from the United States Air Force after 20 years of service. She has a doctorate in health administration, a master's in business administration, and a bachelor's degree in nursing. She is certified in pre-operative and nursing staff development. Dr. Fonseca holds the position of assistant nurse manager operating room at the Central Arkansas Veterans Healthcare System. Dr. Fonseca has completed extensive research on pandemics and preparedness and the effects of it. She has practiced as a manager and a clinician in the following areas: perioperative infection control and prevention, nursing staff development, regulatory compliance, primary care, endoscopy, and labor and delivery. So thank you very much and welcome, Dr. Fonseca.
Thank you, Dr. D'Souza, and thank you to the committee that put this conference together for inviting me and allowing me this opportunity to participate. Today, I am speaking on virulent pandemics and unhindered in spread by geographic borders. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
The prevalence of virulent pandemics have been a constant with frequent outbreaks in recent years. Our global health has been strained by these outbreaks, such as COVID-19, Ebola, H1N1, to name a few. These viruses have presented a challenge to the healthcare communities recently, and it has has been attributed to what I want to focus on here is the simplicity in the ability for people to travel and transport goods from one country to another. So the awareness that I want to bring out is that in preparing for a pandemic, we have to be aware of what is going on in another country and bring that situation, that healthcare issue, to the forefront within our healthcare facilities, no matter where you are, because we all will be affected by it. COVID-19 was identified in December 2019. And by March of 2020, we saw 146 countries that had identified cases. With that being said, global health is a concern for us, and it is a consequence of us not being prepared. Okay, Doctor, so I'm having a problem with my slides moving. The problem that I identified was a limited understanding of how to minimize the spread of viruses across international and national borders. We were faced with, why is this happening? How is this happening? What do we do now that it is happening and we're faced with these viruses? The purpose is to learn the effects of the viruses, from our past and our present experiences, and develop strategies that will help us better understand and to move forward and to eliminate the effect on our global health. The methodology and design rationale that was chosen was the qualitative exploratory single case study method and design. Qualitative research was optimal for understanding people and a phenomenon in a particular situation. The case study design was chosen because we wanted to look at the perspective of the persons who had lived the situation, and we valued that experience because it was something that we could pull from and be able to grow and build strategies from. The case study approach delineated the effect of global health on preparedness of our administrators and clinicians for providing patient care. One thing that stood out is that we wanted to make sure that the administrators in the healthcare and in the healthcare environment was more aware of what strategies they may need to take in preparing for such instances, because there is a constant rotation of our administrators, our managers, and clinicians. So it's a constant thing that needs to be looked at. A case study design is appropriate for gathering information that will add knowledge on a phenomenon. And as you see with COVID-19, we are in a situation where we definitely need to learn more, and we need to learn it quickly. Data collection for this study, I used purposive sampling. I looked at 8 participants with a healthcare background. I wanted to use people who were seasoned, so we focused on with at least 3 years of experience. We looked at persons in the roles of administrators, managers, in the area of infection control, and then some general medicine clinicians. The data was pulled through the use of interviews. We triangulated our reports from regulatory agencies, such as the World Health Organization, the Joint Commission. They give us guidance on our preparation in how we want to set up patient care, and also the Center for Disease Control. I relied on information that had been provided in professional organizations like the American Nursing Association. They've done extensive work on crisis prevention, emergency preparedness. And so it is a matter of being able to get that information out within the patient care area. And finally, scholarly journals like the Journal of Infection Prevention. In my data summary and analysis, during the interview process, there were 3 questions that were asked to the pool of participants. And question 1 being, what preparation and procedures were completed prior to the onset of the viral pandemic to assist in providing patient care? What was found was that there was not a lot of preparation. There was not a lot of training. Actually, there was hardly any communication about or anticipating scenarios as such crises that we are faced today. There were no additional supplies that have been provided. So the participants in the interviews were somewhat concerned. They wanted more training. They were energetic about taking care of patients in these instances, in crises, but they wanted to be well trained for that. And the training needed to be taking place on all levels, in the leadership positions and for persons who are at the bedside taking care of patients. The second question was, what resources do you have available to care for patients during a crisis? And once again, the participants were concerned, and they stated that the resources were limited, and outside of the standard equipment day to day, there were not a lot of resources available to them. As far as infection control precautions, 100% of the staff were aware of the standards, infection control practices, but anything that that were required, like advanced practices, they were not well versed on, and a lot of those, the material were not available. So that was a concern also, like advanced materials would be face mask, the N95, the extensive ventilated hoods, which some of you guys may be aware of what we call the Ebola hood, which allows the ventilation of the air to remain in a closed system, which is what we use in the operating room for to treat anyone with a COVID that has been diagnosed with COVID-19. But what I found is that there was still limited understanding, limited knowledge in this area. And as you see with the aggressiveness with these viruses, there is a big need for everyone in a healthcare team to be aware of the resources, to be aware of the materials, and to be aware of how to use these materials. And the third question was direct on what equipment is available to help protect you and your patients from contracting a virus within a pandemic. And so once again, there was a limitation here. Only the standard items were available, like just standard gloves. Some masks were available, but some were not medical grade masks, in which we have found that is what we need within the healthcare arena. Some felt that just wearing a lab coat may be appropriate for protecting, but in the perioperative setting, and even on some of our medical surgical units, we have to go beyond that and wear what we call our isolation gowns and our Surgical gowns, which are impervious to any viruses and bacteria, have to be worn in order to ward off being able to cross-contamination from any viruses. And even in our leadership arena, there was some lack of knowledge as to how to prep and what equipment to look for and to provide within the clinical area to the personnel. And that some evolving themes that came forth as I was doing this study was repeatedly training. There was a need for training. Staff wanted to be trained. Leadership wanted to receive training on how to handle crises as such, which this training would fall on the preparedness. They wanted to know over and over again how to prepare, what to prepare for, and the word pandemic repeatedly arose. And there was a lot of concern because of the uncertainty, the unpredictability, and it just left the staff and the leaders with a lot of questions that needed to be answered. And so as we look internationally as well as nationally, when you see a healthcare issue arising or be at the forefront, one thing that we really want to bring to the forefront in the healthcare community is that we have to be aware, take notice, and respond, and to start developing a plan as to how we would approach that situation once it came into our facility or on our patient care unit. Because as we have known, what we see our neighbors experiencing right now, it may be within a matter of hours, or it may be within a matter of weeks, or a matter that we, as a provider, will most likely be taking care of patients and have to respond to how we are going to move forward in doing this. As I move to conclusions in the study, I want to really state that as we all have noticed, COVID-19 has brought to the forefront how quickly a virus can spread. And as healthcare providers, administrators, managers, we have to be cognizant of that, whether it's going to be COVID-19 or whether with the next virus X, Y, Z. This has to always, from now and in the future, be in the forefront at the back of our mind, and we have to be prepared for it. The viruses are going to spread. They are going to cross borders, and we will have to respond. Within the United States, I have noticed that there is a strong need within our states to be able to share information, notify our counterparts, our colleagues on how to mitigate the virus from spreading, sharing of strategies, developing plans, collaborating, partnering with other within the community in order to be able to respond to a virus or even a crisis of that nature. And so as I set out to put this recommendation together, for me as a healthcare provider and a clinician and a leader in the healthcare community, my main focus here is to share information on how we have developed a plan, how we are responding to COVID-19 at the moment. And hopefully that it will be information that will help in another facility that are responding as we are presently. One recommendation is what to expect. We have to step out and share within a organization, within a facility, with the personnel on what to expect in a crisis situation, because it is increasingly stressful. It can be mentally taxing on everyone that is involved. You are going to expect to have chaos, because it may be a first for a lot of people stepping into this arena. It may be a first for a manager or a leader or a clinician who have never experienced such a crisis before. And so they need to know that everything is not going to be like step 1, step 2, step 3. It's going to be a period of learning. And if you prepare prior, it would alleviate some of the stress, but not all. It will alleviate some of the chaos, but not all. But you have to have that foundation. And so if you go in understanding that there will be some chaos, there will be some learning experiences, then I think that you're going to be a little bit more successful. And what I found in the role that I am in now, there were a couple of people who had been in that experience, in those situations, and experienced it before, and they were able to be a resource to others, especially in leadership positions who were new to this. And so where we started off, we started out with first and foremost, getting the information out to the staff and to the personnel within the facility to alleviate the uncertainty. Because in the beginning, yes, staff was worried. How is this going to affect me? Am I going to be able to work? How is this going to affect my family? And so we had to provide to them measures. We had to reassure them the steps that would be taken in order to protect them, so that when they left their work environment, they would not be putting anyone outside of that environment at risk. We had there, because the question came up several times in staffing, is that some of our healthcare workers did not want to come into the environment, did not want to work, because their number one priority was not taking it home. So we had to reassure them that the resources would be there to protect them and their families, and get those resources out to the staff. Communication. If you're in a network of hospitals and facilities, then you're going to have to communicate within your facility and within that network also. It's the sharing of best practices. It's the sharing of how treatments are being implemented. It's the sharing of how you are taking care of your human resources. It's the sharing of your supplies and equipment, how you're handling that, how you are acquiring these resources, what companies are available. We found that in acquiring our PPE, some companies did not have as much stockpile as others. Some healthcare facilities have already taken that step of establishing warehouses with stockpiles for crises such as pandemics. And so you have to be able to communicate, establish a mode of communication, and so that you can open up doors and network with these facilities and be able to acquire your supplies. Because that did, within the leadership round, that did lead to a high stress of being able to, how are we going to be able to get these supplies? In our facility, we sat down and started forecasting forecasting our PPE based on what we would need and looking at the worst case scenario, the highest patient load, and going from there and acquiring our resources. And within the operating room, what I did, it was to establish a log of supplies that would be needed to take care of patients either in an emergency or an urgent situation. And from there, I built a weekly par level of what would be needed and provided that to the logistical support. And they made sure that it was available to me. And so in the weeks that we have been faced with this, we have not had an issue with being able to get our PPE and our supplies because we've had some time to be able to forecast, and they have been able to research and network with other companies and be able to get us the things that we need. Training in the beginning was we had at least a couple of weeks in our facility before we received the patient. So training was at the forefront. We brought in our education and training team, and the first and initial priority was to train the personnel on the use of the PPE. That is the donning and doffing of our isolation gowns, putting our gloves on, putting on your mask, eye protection. If you're in the operating room environment, we wear the protective boots covering. So there was extensive training, not only in the operating room, but throughout the entire facility on how to don and doff the personal protective equipment. And we required our personnel, leadership, management, clinicians, and administrators, non-clinical personnel, to go through these classes and be able to do the return demonstrations on how to don and doff this equipment, because we wanted to be sure that there was no opportunities for cross contamination of our personnel. Preparing the strategies for our administrators and clinicians. We had to, in our facility, we had to look at, on the administrative side, what policies and procedures were in place, already established, what policies and procedures needed to be developed. So a team had to be put together for that instance to be able to write these policies and procedures very quickly and provide them to the staff so that they would have some direction on what to do in certain situations, in certain scenarios. And as you guys may all know, that the more information that a person have, the more they are going to feel confident, and the stress level will decrease, and they will be able to take care of their patients without any mishaps. As we have come into the COVID-19 crisis, there was not a straight and narrow plan in front of us, but we've taken this opportunity to write that plan, build that plan, and what I found from this research is that, you know, from the participants interviewed, they want to have some idea. They want to have some form of preparedness. And so if there isn't a plan in place in a facility, there needs to be an outline of where you would start, what you would do in moving forward within a healthcare facility so that you will be able to take care of your patients. Because you know, some facilities received more patients, did not have a lot of time to prepare. So they were more devastated than others in getting ready and being able to receive patients. Some of the thing also within the operating room that we found that was very successful were in communication, were daily briefings. Even at the lowest level, we needed to give information out to the staff, and we used huddles, whether it would be a 5 or 10 minute gathering. But the more information that we gave out, the more relaxed, the more prepared, the more that our staff, our personnel, were more apt to want to take care of these patients. There were guidelines on where to wear the mask. There were guidelines on when to put on eye protection. There were guidelines written on which levels of personal protective gear needed to be worn. And so I think that this made it a lot easier for the staff. The concern came up in the operating room on social distancing. If anyone has been in the operating room, you know, we are well within 6 feet of each other in order to take care of a patient. And so we had to look at, especially in training situations, the removal of training personnel, because there were, in relation to the square footage of the operating room, there were more people in that room that would compromise that 6 feet of social distancing. So we had to approach that. We had to write guidance on that. And once that was written, you know, our personnel really fell in place. They joined in and adhered to that policy. And what I have found in this crisis and in doing this research is that people want to know as much information about what they're going to be faced. They want to know as much information on how to handle those situations. And in this research and in the just day-to-day operation, the quicker you can get that out to them, the better. Because when you are faced with these emergency crises, not only is it stressful, it also is mentally taxing. And so having that mental health support available is also very important. And so in our facility, we established a mental health support team that were available to anyone that needed their services also. So this presentation have been a short presentation, but my goal was to just go give you an overview of the research that was done, and also share with you some of the practices that we have put into place within the facility from where I practice, so that you will be better prepared, and hopefully it's information that you can use within your practice and share with others. I have submitted this information to a peer-reviewed journal, the Journal of Infection Prevention. I have shared the information with local medical facilities in our area. I have shared the information with some community organizations. As of now, I can plan to continue to work on pandemics and getting this information out to as many communities that I can. I think that it will better prepare us, and it appears to be a crisis that we will have to endure and know how to treat for a few months to come. And so these are some of the references that I used. Are there any questions?
Nice talk, ma'am. Nice. Very nice. Pandemics and technology. Right.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cassandra. Very important aspect of planning and curtailing the virulence of COVID-19. And back to Dr. Srikanth.
Yeah. Yes, it was very nice. Like, but we need to find out like what other kind of diseases would be. I'm not saying possible. Like in future, like even if it comes, like how we can avoid. See, like all the talks were related to COVID-19 and technology. Excellent. Now we need to think about this also, like how we can take care, what are precautions we can take throughout in the world. Right. Lionel, go ahead.
Yes. So thank you very much once again, Dr. Fonseca. And we would like to ask our next speaker, and that would be Mr. Dilip Sadankar. And I would like to give you a brief on his bio. First of all, Mr. Sadankar will be speaking on the role of IoT, which is the Internet of Things, technologies in the COVID-19 pandemic, and a brief bio, because the bio of Mr. Sadankar is so impressive and extensive that I will touch only upon a few things. He holds a Master's in Science in Computer Science, MSc, a Master's in Science from RTM, that is Nagpur University. He has completed his MPhil from Alagappa University and an MCA from Punjab University. He is currently a doctoral learner nearing completion of his PhD thesis. And we've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Sadankar in SFS College in some of the webinars we have done there. So he is assistant professor. So without further ado, I would turn the microphone to Mr. Sadankar to take us through his presentation.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have shared my laptop screen. Yes, presentation is visible to you?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Lionel D'Souza, sir, and Dr. Srikanth Prabhu, sir, for giving me opportunity to speak at this platform. And my topic for the presentation is the use of IoT technologies, that is Internet of Things, amidst COVID-19 pandemic. So we all know, since the pandemic started, there has been a rapid effort in different research communities to exploit a wide variety of technologies to combat this worldwide threat. And IoT technology is one of the pioneer in this area, In this context of COVID-19, IoT enabled linked devices or applications are utilized to lower the possible spread of COVID-19 to other by early diagnosis, monitoring patient and practicing defined protocols and patient recovery. The current global challenge of the pandemic caused by the novel severe respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, present the greatest global public health crisis since the pandemic influenza uh, outbreak and way back in 1980s. And according to the last report of this World Health Organization, there are more than 55 or maybe more than 60 million number of people, okay, that are confirmed COVID-19 cases and huge death toll, number of more than 1 million people. So the disease has similar symptom as the flu, such as fever, cough, and fatigue, which are essential to recognize for early diagnosis. The incubation period of COVID-19 that we know takes from 1 to 14 days. Surprisingly, a patient without any symptom can possibly be a transmitter of the COVID-19 virus to others. So this is when quarantining such people is necessary. Moreover, the recovery period of the disease varies and depends on the patient's age, underlying conditions, and then other things are also there. So, but in general, it can take more between 6 to 1 week to maybe 41 days. So the disease has a high potential to spread easily in comparison with similar diseases within the coronavirus family. There are many ongoing effort and much research to mitigate the spread of this virus. In this context, IoT technologies has been shown to be a safe and efficient way of dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. So here we must understand what is IoT. So the IoT is the Internet of Things that describe network of physical objects or things that are embedded with sensor, software applications, and other technologies for the purpose of connecting and maybe exchanging data with other devices and systems over the internet. In other words, we can say that here IoT is the system of interconnected device that have the ability to collect and transfer data through a wireless network without the need of human involvement. More simply, any object that can be connected to the internet uh, for further monitoring or transferring data has the opportunity to be an IoT device. So once the data is collected, it's then analyzed and distributed out to other devices, resulting in shared valuable information and enhanced user experience. Now the point is that here, how can IoT help us in our current scenario of prolonged social distancing or maybe in the next pandemic? And what kind of technologies should we bet on going back to work if it is unlocking? Okay. So actually, basically, I will try to just divide this into three different phases. The very first is early detection and diagnosis. If there are very few people, okay, we can restrict that number of people who are getting corona. So that can lead to lesser infection, and as a result, better health services for infected patients can be provided. Again, in the next phase that we can say quarantine phase, okay. So quarantining confirmed or suspected cases and enforcing lockdown that can decrease the number of COVID-19 infection by separating infected people from others. In the last phase here, that is after recovery period, that we can say the tracking COVID-19 patient after recovery will benefit monitoring of returning symptoms and the potential infective recovered cases. So in the current pandemic, the incident of COVID-19 is high. There is an essential need for patients to be connected and to be monitored. Their physicians proactively in different phases. So it's early detection and diagnosis phase, and it's quarantine phase, and then after recovery phase. So here, the very first one, that is the early detection and diagnosis. The key to combating COVID-19 is to diagnose it early to prevent spreading the virus widely. This will substantially help healthcare provider to arrange better treatment plans, as I said, save more lives, and reduce contamination and infection. The first step is early diagnosis of COVID-19, is understanding its symptom. According to the CDC, COVID-19 has a wide range of symptoms, including fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle, body ache, etc. Even the loss of taste of smell, sore throat, congestion, etc. So among them, fever is high. Fever with high body temperature is one of the most common symptoms that we found in a COVID-19 patient. With when the major temperature exceed 38 degrees Celsius, so we can say that there's a possibility. So IoT devices can make the detection process faster and more efficient by capturing data within their sensor and then analyzing the data of the patient. That data can be provided to the healthcare provider and authorities to diagnosis and then control and ultimately stop this contagious disease. So different IoT devices can be used to capture some or symptoms at the earlier stage, and among that are we are discussing few of them. So the very first one here, wearable, okay. So using wearable device, okay, that is considered to be a very efficient way to respond to the need for early diagnosis during the pandemic. Developing these devices has had a remarkable impact on the early detection of the disease. For example, a wearable IoT device can confirm whether a respiratory sign of a patient is normal or not. Then with this knowledge, the patient can notice any changes in his or her health situation, and then decide to make a medical appointment with the doctor before any symptom further appears. In fact, COVID-19 pandemic might be easier to fight using appropriate wearable devices. So there are a number of wearable devices you can think of, like a smart thermometer, so to record constant measurement of body temperature. It is very efficient actually. It's a low cost and it gives the temperature reading accurately, and it's very easy to use device. There are other devices are also available, like some names are Temp-Drop, iFever, iSense. So that can be used to record the body temperature. Other devices, smart helmet. So helmet can be wear here. So using wearable helmet here with the thermal camera has shown to be safer compared to an infrared thermometer gun due to lower human interaction. So that minimizes the human interaction. In this device, when the high temperature is detected by the thermal camera on the smart helmet, in this device, the location as well as the image of the person face that is taken by the optical camera, then they are sent to assign mobile device with an alarm, so that health officer can distinguish the infected person, and they can take appropriate action. Additionally, the Google location history that can be incorporated with the smart helmet to find the places that has been visited by the person suspected that the patient. Countries such as China, UAE, and Italy have implemented this wearable device to monitor crowds within 2 meters from the passerby. Then another device is there, a smart glass. So another type of wearable device is smart glass. This IoT-based device, in comparison with the thermometer guns, smart glasses have lesser human interaction again, as in the case of smart helmet. Optical and thermal camera have been used in smart glasses to monitor crowd, and the inbuilt face detection technology makes tracking procedure easier and detecting suspicious cases. In fact, that allows detecting the identification of the suspicious case, person with high temperature. Additionally, Google location history can empower further action with more reliability by capturing the places that person has been visited. So there are a number of companies like models are available. Rokid smart glasses with infrared sensor have the ability to monitor more than up to the 200 people at one time. So another example of this device is the combination of physics and physics smart glasses with the on-site cube thermal camera. So this device work together to monitor crowd, to detect people with high temperature and provide their information to medical center or the authorities uh, nearby. After that, here that drone can be used here to find infected people in the crowd. Um, Here, using IoT-based drone, here contaminated people and zones during this pandemic that can be monitored. Drone technology can reduce human interaction and can reach hard to access location. That is one of the benefit. Uh, the thermal imaging drone as shown in the picture here, that was designed for capturing the temperature of people in crowd and can be used in the early diagnosis phase. So this type of drone can be combined with the virtual reality as a wearable device to identify people with high temperature. And this device not only reduces human interaction, but also it takes less time compared to thermometer or than other devices, okay, to detect the information about the patient. So the next one here will go with the robots, okay. So robot can be used here. That link to the IoT, robot can be linked with the IoT to assist early diagnosis in a remarkable use of these devices, because they can help health worker by processing patient treatment and lowering work stress level. Okay, because here it avoid direct contact with the patient, so obviously the stress level of the worker, health worker, will be less. So without the interaction of human, the autonomous robot can help fight in all COVID-19 phases. In the first phase, it can help in the process of diagnosis or maybe collecting sample from patient with the advantage of preventing medical staff at risk. Here in the picture, just so I will just try to show you how it can be worked. So the device detects symptom of COVID-19 patient in a 10 second. If you are using robot to identify the people with symptoms, so here it will give a very fast result. It will give very fast result. So the the next one is here IoT buttons. So IoT buttons that plays very important role again. IoT button can play an important role in alerting the authorities or family of a patient about any contaminated area or emergency. For example, an IoT button produced by Vision State, can called like Vanda or Quick Touch was deployed as a cleaning alert system in hospital. So So they are designed for alerting authorities in case of any concern related to essential sanitation or public safety. Apart from that, here we can use the smartphone application. So smartphone application enabled with IoT using information such as GPS and GIS, etc., for tracking purpose that have been widely used during the COVID-19. So implementing smartphone application using the IoT, Internet of Medical Things, so will assist patient by providing the proper treatment while they are at home. Additionally, it enables a healthcare worker to upload their health information. Healthcare people and authorities to monitor patient and the spread of disease more easily. And apart from that, here it enables health. Help the people to upload their information on the cloud adopted by the IoT and get health advice from hospital also. Using this platform, patient can be cured at home without expanding the contamination. It costs less than having a physical appointment at hospital, and allowing the government to take better action to manage the pandemic in the future. So since the start of the pandemic, some smartphone applications have been developed for COVID-19 diagnosis and monitoring. So that are fewer that NCAP, mobile detects, stop corona. So here NCAP, now this is the COVID-19 intelligent diagnosis and treatment system manager actually, was developed in China using Internet of Medical Things on a cloud platform. This cell phone application, this mobile application is an automated diagnosis system with 8 functions that can be selected by the user. Then NCAP can automatically generate a diagnosis report based on the requested data and questionnaire submitted by the patient at the time of after downloading that application. So diagnosis is categorized into 3 cases like confirmed, suspected, or suspicious. For the confirmed case, there are 4 conditions like mild, moderate, severe, critical. Then other positive point of this program, this application is it includes updating its own database in order to improve the diagnosis, making consultation possible for all the health worker, making sure all patients are safe in long term, and finally having all these abilities publicly available. So in general, using the application can be done faster, diagnosis can be done faster, and the spread of disease can be controlled easier manner. So that application, smartphone application, can be useful. Well, in the second phase here, that is very important quarantine phase here. Now quarantine quarantine patient that are at home, okay, maybe at home or maybe at quarantine place, okay. So here using the devices, we can keep watch on them, okay, whether they are leaving that place or they are continuously there. So that can be monitored. So here there are a number of devices we can use, okay, like we have discussed in the earlier phase. So the very first one, wearable. So quarantine time for confirmed or suspected cases is vital because there is a chance of spreading the virus to other people by those cases. IoT wearable bands that have shown promising result to prevent patients from leaving the quarantine areas. Using wearable bands, that is the cost-effective solution for tracking the cases. This device is connected to patient's smartphone application through Bluetooth, maybe during the quarantine period, and healthcare authorities can usually monitor all cases every every 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, or maybe after an hour. So using a web interface. Additionally, if a patient does not have a band on his or her arm, or maybe on leg or whatever place, or maybe leave the quarantine area. So here the authorities can get notification of that, or they may call for the clarification to the patient. So here in the actual picture, I have just tried to show that variable. It is not there. Okay. So there are I think in United States, I just read somewhere in the United States that this is implemented with the help of electronic ankle bracelets, okay, in order to isolate people who refuse to stay in quarantine. So here that can be used. Then drone. So drone can be used here. Using drone here, that we can keep a watch on the people, as well as we can advise the people. So using drone plays an important role during the quarantine time to decrease the number of COVID-19 cases by lowering interaction uh, of health care worker with patient and contaminated areas. For example, drone in this phase can assist health care worker and patient by disinfecting areas of or delivering a treatment to the medical treatment to the patient. There are two kinds of drone here we can use. Disinfectant drone, keeping areas sanitized and disinfected during the quarantine period. That is very important. This drone can reduce the contamination of the virus and also prevent healthcare worker from getting infected. So one more is there, that is medical or delivery drone. So medical or delivery drone that can be used efficiently, that we can see in the picture. So we can use this to transfer the test kit, COVID-19 test kit or samples, medical supplies between the labs, between the medical center, to eliminate human interaction. Additionally, this type of drone usually reduce hospital visit and increase access to medical care by delivering medical treatment to patient or another medical center rapidly. For example, using medical drone in China and Ghana, like countries, or the speed of diagnosis by that can be cut, that can be cut, or delivery of the product, okay, that has been cut. Another type of delivery drone that used during the COVID-19, that is produced by Delivery Drone Canada Incorporation, which can move COVID-19 related goods, including test kit and swab test. So this type of drone can be used for other purpose as well, for like postal and grocery services, while COVID-19 confirmed cases are isolated in their home during the quarantine time. So this type of uh, drone can be used. Then the next one is a robot. So robot can be used here during the quarantine time period. That plays very important role in keeping medical staff away from isolated patient. For example, robot can be used in different ways, such as capturing the respiratory sign and providing assistance to patient with their treatment or maybe food. For example, there are a number of different types of robots. For example, tele-robot, collaborative robots, autonomous robot, social robot. A social robot that can be used for the patient, that can be potentially cause mental or health problem. So in that case here, to prevent this, social robot are designed to communicate with the patient during that time. Here collaborative robot that can be used, that is also known as cobots. So that are recommended robot if there is a need for operation performed by humans, so they can help here. Then autonomous robot that have widely used during quarantine time phase. They can work with fewer or without any human interaction and can be utilized in a different scenario in order to maybe sterilize contaminated areas. Then telerobot here that can be again used with without actually here I can say operated remotely by a human and can provide different services such as remote diagnosis, remote surgeries, then remote treatment, etc. So next one here is just the IoT button. So here the patient here the use of this IoT button in response to the COVID-19 pandemic can help to track patient during quarantine. The one of the button that was a Symposium that was originally designed for tracking lost or missing children, but the outbreak of at the after the outbreak of COVID-19, this IoT device has been used for emergency notification during quarantine. If the health condition of the confirmed case at isolated place, if it is getting worse, so in that case here that button can be pressed so that healthcare provider they can be alerted, and so that here precautions can be taken. Apart from that, here smartphone application that can be used in quarantine phase like social monitoring, selfie app, Civitas, stay home safe. So these are the different examples. For example, social monitoring. So in Russia, a mandatory surveillance application that is called social monitoring that has been developed by the government to track patients who are diagnosed with the COVID-19 and have to be isolated in their home. So using this approach, authorities can track patient after the application is installed in their mobile. Patients are required to ask for a quick response code every time they want to leave home or to leave the quarantine area. This code represents their identification to the authority, which allow them to monitor that patient. That selfie app here, the application was developed that is used by the Poland actually. So with the geolocation and facial recognition technology to track patients who have been told to stay at home for 14 days, the patient can here use this app. Like that, there are different applications we can use here during quarantine phase. Last one is here after recovery phase. That means after recovery, that means now we know that very many locations are there. Now they are getting opening up. Okay, after the lockdown. So here, how IoT technology can be implemented here? How it can be used? So the variable here that can be used like here is a band or maybe proximity stress. So here proximity stress here, that's the industrial worker are coming back to the work after the lockdown. So there is an essential need to practicing social distancing between them while they are work all together. So proximity stress helps industrial worker maintain social distancing in a practical way. So this device which can be attached to the hard hat whereby that employee or that person or body or alert means any come to the close to that person. So in that case, it will alert worker when they get close to that each other, and with loud sound. Using this device, worker will be able to concentrate on their work, and here they can do their work in a better way without looking here and there toward their contacts. After that, here drone can be used here after the recovery phase here. So as we know that after recovery phase, many drones have been used in response to reopening, which help business continue working in a safe manner. So there are two kind of drones can be used. One is surveillance drone, one is announcement drone. So a surveillance drone that can be designed and developed as an effective way of monitor crowd in case of people failure to do social distancing. Here, micro multi-copter made in China. That is the example of this. again, in India, this kind of drones are used. Now, this micro multi-captor, this drone that has been equipped with the speaker to announce important information from the authorities, which will be which can take out to the crowd, and it can, whatever the message here that has to be broadcasted to the crowd, okay, that can be easily broadcasted. Oh, sorry, that can be easily seen with the surveillance drone. In the announcement drone, that speaker can be used, or loudspeaker can be used, okay, to announcement, for the announcement here. So, for example, Kuwait, there's a drone used that broadcast the message "Go home," okay, for the people who are not maintaining social distancing, or a lot of people there are in the crowd. Again, here a lot of guideline can be broadcasted to the loudspeaker here using this announcement drone. Then here this robot can be used here in the after recovery phase. As the schools are reopening, businesses are recovering, cars are back on the road, and people are returning to their daily commute. The COVID-19 pandemic is turning out to be the next step. Pandemic is turning into the next step, which is after lockdown. So here, in this case, everybody needs to know the importance of social distancing everywhere to mitigate the spread of virus. In response to this COVID-19, autonomous robot can be used to control social distancing. For example, a 4 legs robot can be used to control social distancing. So here in Singapore, here such kind of robots are used. That dog remind people to practice social distancing in public places. While this robot is controlled remotely, can be controlled remotely, it is also capable of transferring data to web interface for further monitoring. So robot can be used here. And the last one is here, this we can use here as smartphone applications. So the use of IoT in healthcare is now expanding, that we already know. So there are a number of applications available already used by different governments. In India, Arogya Setu, that app is being used. So this Arogya Setu app is a contact tracing application for people to use on their smartphone to increase the awareness of and fight against the virus. Arogya Setu is designed for better communication between health service provider and people. In this application, the user will be asked if he or she has any symptom of COVID-19 or has recently traveled internationally. Analyzing the input data that is provided by the user along with their tracking information, Arogya Setu is able to notify the user if he or she had contact with someone who is already or later become is already there, or maybe possibility of that may become confirmed case in the latter stage. So there are a number of applications traced together. Again, coalition, beware, then Iruska, social media, WhatsApp app. So WhatsApp app that can be used here. That is also being used for the consultation or the virtual meeting as well. So these are the smartphone applications. So that can be used as a here as an IoT technology to deal with the pandemic COVID-19. So that is all from my side. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you, Dilip.
Dilip.
Nice.
It was a wonderful presentation, and you have outlined clearly all the steps and measures that are available, the Internet of Things and the devices and the technology and the connectivity that is going to make life a little better for us. So once again, thank you very much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge. Any questions? So if there are no questions, we're going to keep these presentations. They are all recorded, and we're going to request abstracts from everybody. And should anybody need any information, they can reach out directly to the presenter or through me and Dr. Shrikant, and we will relay the questions to the presenter. And in that way, we will get the questions answered. So I would now call on Dr. Shrikant to take over. If Dr. Shrikant is there.
Yeah. Thank you, Lionel. I thank all the presenters, students, specifically from the IEEE and
okay, Dr. Shrikant.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're on mute probably.
Just a second. Just a second.
Okay, on that note, I think Dr. Shrikant must be on mute.
No, I'm coming.
It has been a wonderful opportunity to engage with such high profile and excellent researchers who have shared their knowledge, their expertise, and the infinite wisdom and the research and findings. So we would call this conference now close. We would
stop
draw down the curtain. But I guess this is just the beginning. We're going to engage in much more. These presentations will be recorded. They are recorded. We will engage in more scholarship. And the proceedings of this conference, as mentioned earlier, will be again made available. Certificates will be provided to all participants and attendees. And we expect to generate peer-reviewed journal articles from all these efforts. So on that note, look forward to further collaboration. This is University Go Global and Manipal Institute of Technology signing off, and Dr. Shrikant is there. So I would request him to share his closing thoughts.
Are you able to listen?
Yes, sir.
Can't hear you, Dr. Shrikant.
Yeah. So I thank all the speakers.
Cannot hear you.
Huh? It is in the speaker mode only. It's on.
You are audible. You are audible.
Yeah. I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thank all the speakers, IEEE students, and other students who participated in this international symposium. There was a very good response to all the speeches on COVID-19, technology, IoT, and the speeches were logically placed. Like on the first day we had on organization behavior, COVID-19, optimization in technology with COVID-19. Second day we had on data mining. Then we had a talk on national education policy. And then we had a talk on general COVID-19 and forecasting by Professor Gangley, by Professor Deepak Vaikar, by Professor Ranjan Kini. And then we had speeches by Mr. Shyam Kamath, Mr. Cyril Khisti, along with Dr. Lionel D'Souza. So on and overall, it was very holistic. It covered different aspects of life, whether be technology, management, clinical, even I would like to say some link to even sports, that is how to take care of health and becoming better there also, though not direct but indirect. And we should not forget the chief guest address by Mr. T. Gautam Pai. It was really classical. He put his thoughts on IoT. And then we had a presidential address by Dr. Manohar Pai, who spoke on fish images. And then the IEEE site chapter was inaugurated. And Dr. UC Niranjan, who is the IEEE Mangalore chapter chair, was present, and he presented the head of the IEEE Bangalore chapter. I would like to wholeheartedly thank Shikhar Srivastav. Shikhar, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Shikhar Srivastav and Preet, who did an excellent job of making the brochures, timetables, and also the background. Without them, this would not have been become a reality, because they were at home, and the scar is there on both sides, even for me and for the students, because of this COVID-19. And we had a lot of good thoughts, and perhaps, not perhaps, surely, all the articles, abstracts will go into the proceedings, and it will be referred to a journal. This is what we have planned, and we are going to have more of these kind of workshops with all the speakers who are present this time. Next time, once again, perhaps with an adaptable, modified logical reasoning, and we hope that time COVID-19 is not there. So at least now it is coming down in any way. So last but not the least, thank you all. Good morning to the Western world, and good evening to the Eastern world. We are in India, so it is good night, right? So good night, good evening, good morning. All three are possible when we hold these kind of symposiums, right? Thank you very much to all of you. I want to be in contact with all of you throughout, so that it helps the students on both sides. The idea is to help the students to get better placements, better better internships abroad on both sides, not only at Manipal, on the other side, on other universities, and we can have better exchanges. Thank you very much. Good night from India. Right.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, you would like to add something, Shikhar?
Sir, it was a good experience working with this. I also garnered saw so many good projects. So we wouldn't have known all these things are going on in and around our world. So it was a good experience to see what all presentations and the presenters had. I already had the topics of what all things were there. They looked good. So it encouraged me to go through all the everything. So it was very good.
Yeah. I would also personally like to thank Shikhar and Preet very much for the excellent support. And when things were down and we were in a crisis, Shikhar was there to support us and help us. So thank you, Shikhar, very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so on that note, I'm signing off. We'll see you at our conference tomorrow.
Yeah.
And bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.